Hi there, Chevy owners. Today in your 2015 Chevrolet Silverado 1500, we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install Redarc's Tow-Pro Elite trailer brake controller. And right away here you can see what makes the Redarc Tow-Pro Elite so great. Your typical brake controller is going to be installed on the dash here. Oftentimes getting in and out, you bang your knee on it. With our Tow-Pro Elite, the module is completely hidden, and the only thing that you're going to have here on your dash is the tiny little button that you see here. And this allows you to interact with your brake controller. You can operate your manual slide by pushing the button, similarly to a traditional brake controller. It doesn't have any intermediate positions. Like with the regular brake controller, you can go like halfway and put less power. With this one here, all you would do for that is just turn the knob down. See, as we look here, full red is max output, and as we push in and turn it down, you can see that we're getting less output, with blue being no output. So you do still have plenty of variability there. It's just a little bit different on how you operate it. This is also your sensitivity adjustment. You can go between 0 and 10 for depending on the trailer that you have and how much braking that you're going to need for it. This is a fully proportional brake controller, which means that as we stop here in our vehicle, the module will detect the movement. When you hit the brakes, you kind of lunge forward. Well, that inertia sensor in there feels that kind of lunge forward feeling, and it knows how quickly you're trying to stop, and it will use that inertia information to apply the brakes closely to match that of your vehicle. So that way you get nice, smooth braking operation. Now, there is a scenario where that might not be what you want, and that's mostly when you're going off-road. You might not want that inertia-based braking system, because if you're in a real muddy, slick area and you hit the brakes and you got your trailer behind you and stuff, if you start to slide, you're not getting that movement forward, and the inertia sensor may detect that you're really not trying to slow down much, and it may not put a whole lot of pressure out to the brakes. So for that scenario, you would want to put it in the user control mode. To do this, simply roll your knob down to 0, press the brake, and double tap the knob. That'll switch it over to the green illumination that you see there, and this is going to operate with a slightly different fashion now. Rather than using the inertia sensor for its output, it's just going to have a slight delay before it then applies the brake at whatever your setting is here. So we'll hit the brake, you can see it kind of just like slowly ramped it up to that, and that's how it's going to operate for all of these. And this way, if you're in those slick, slidey conditions, like out in a big mud pit or something, you'll still be able to get brakes on your trailer to help you come to a stop. It's not going to be just your vehicle sliding through the mud. So it's got plenty of versatility there with that. We can go ahead and go back to the other mode by going back to 0 and double tapping to put us back in that proportional mode. And this brake controller is going to work with trailers up to 3 axles. So you've got plenty of options for a wide range of trailers. Even your huge campers that you've got out there that people are pulling behind their trailer, many of those are only going to be 3 axles. So you'll have pretty much everything you're going to want to need right here in a nice small little package. So now that we've covered some of the features of our brake controller here, if you want to follow along with me in the shop, we'll show you how to get it installed. Now, before we can begin our install, we just want to cover the parts that come in your kit, because this is not like a traditional brake controller. It's just going to be mounted in front of the dash. So we've got our module here, which we can mount wherever we want. That's our main plug connector that will give you your power and the inputs from the vehicle to help it interface with our vehicle. And then the other small plug here on the other side is going to go to the remote controller. And that's this guy here. This switch we can mount anywhere we want on the dash, and we'll control everything for our brake controller through this little switch here. So you'll get the cable to plug your switch into your module. You do also get a cable that plugs in to the module here to allow you to hook those wires into your vehicle to connect it up. And then you get a button here that will give you a mounting location for your switch if you don't have one. A lot of times there's a knockout in the dash that you can just knock out, and this guy will slide right in there and give you an easy mounting location. Now, we're not going to be using that today, and we're also not going to be using this today. For our Silverado here, it actually has a connector that we can plug directly into the vehicle to get all of our signals, so we don't need to splice into any wires. And that's what this harness is here. It does not come in the kit. You have to purchase this separately, but this connector here will plug right into our truck, and that'll let our other end plug right into the module. So really simplify our installation and make things a lot easier. So I highly recommend this cable, and that's what we're going to be using today. So we're under the dash here. This is the brake pedal. There's the parking brake pedal, your data link connector. We go straight back from the data link connector, and you're going to have this module cover here. This is our fuse box cover. You also need to get access behind here, because this is where our harness is going to plug in. If you look at the cover, you'll see there's a picture of like a lock, an opening lock. You'll have 3 of those, and there's arrows pointing to where the clips are that you'll need to use to release it. So there's 2 on the passenger side of it. The one on the driver's side here is really difficult to get your fingers in there and get to, so just follow the lock over to the latch, and then I just use a little hook tool to get underneath it to pop it out, because my fingers don't quite fit in between the components there. This will then just slide off out of our way. Again, we're going to be mounting the module to it, so just go ahead and set that aside. We're going to use that in a minute. So now we got that cover off. There's a large open connector here. Just above that, you'll see you have another open connector. It's a small one with just 4 pins on it. Our harness here is going to plug directly into that. So we're going to take this end here. You can see it's got kind of some slotted grooves. Those fit right into the slotted grooves there. So we're just going to bring it right up here and then just push it in until it clicks. And that's how that's going to go. Our cable is just going to it's going to end up poking out the top like that, and then we'll be able to plug into the side of our module here. So now I'm just going to set my module on here. We're going to make our marks at the 4 locations, and then at that point we can just drill it out. I like to line it up kind of with this curve right there. And we're going to drill out those holes with a 1/4-inch drill bit so that way we can run our cable ties through. All right, our module will sit right on top of here. I like to put my zip tie in from the back side. That way we'll hide the big head of the zip tie here on the inside. So we're just going to line it up, take our cable tie, push it through, and then here on the other side we'll line it up, push it through, and then we can just bring these together and zip tied down. I'm not going to fully tighten that one just yet until I get my other one inserted in here. And this one's going to work the same way. We're just going to push it around. Make sure you're going through your holes. And then we'll loosely install this one. And the reason why I like to loosely install is I'm trying to get the head of the zip tie towards the top here like that. That way we can pull them nice and tight. So our module's nice and secure to our panel now. We'll just take the excess and trim it off. To reinstall our cover, just push the wire up because the cover here is open at the top. And then this will just slide back into place. And we can plug our module in. All right, so next we need to mount up our switch here. And I did kind of loosely assemble it. You have a knob, a nut, and a washer there. I just put them together so I won't lose them. The switch portion here, you can see the back has the same type of connector end as the module. So this is it's just like an Ethernet style cable. One's a 90 degree, one's a straight, so you can use that to your advantage because you can see how deep this is. Where the gray is, the gray and onward towards the knob is what's going to be sticking out the dash. The rest of everything behind the gray here is going to be behind the dash when we drill our hole. So you got to make sure you have enough room for about 1.5 inches there for this switch. Plus, once you plug a cable in, you're now at like 2, maybe even 3 inches, depending on which one you choose to plug in there. So based on that, you want to try to find a place where you can mount it where it's going to be easily accessible. These panels down here are pretty thick. They're not the best accessible panel. But right here, just to the left of the steering wheel, there's an opening right here that you can kind of see, you can feel if you wrap your hands around. And I think that's where we're going to mount ours right there. That way it'll be right in the driver's view, easy to see, kind of out of the way as well. To get to this point, to make it easier though to drill and install this, we are going to remove a panel, this lower panel right here. So we're going to get a T15 Torx to remove a couple fasteners located on the bottom. So there's just 2 fasteners. You have one to the right of your hood release. Both of them are going to be a T15 Torx. Once we've got both removed, this panel just pulls away. There's a couple of clips there, and there behind it. When you're pulling it away, you probably want to support the panel next to it that you're trying to pull away from. So we got both of those popped out on that side. Then we'll head over to this side and we're gonna see if we're putting a little bit of support on the panel here as we pull away. After we've got that popped out, the hood release cable still attached to it, we can just set that down on the floor. We now have a lot more room to get our hand up in here, easily feel behind it, so we're good to go there. So now we're gonna go ahead and grab the drill that we're gonna need to get our switch installed. So we're gonna go ahead and take the knob off of there. Here's our nut. This is the size hole that we're gonna need to drill. So that way our nut can pass through. This is a 10 millimeter in size, so you're probably gonna be using standard drill bits. So the closest size to that is a 3/8. It's ever so slightly smaller, so you might have to step it up just slightly from there if it's too tight to get this to fit. You'll also notice that on our gray tab here, there's a small hole there. We'll be using an 1/8 inch drill bit to also line up that pilot hole for the light that's going to shine through there. We're going to start with the big hole, and we can use our gray washer here kind of as a guide for the other small hole. So we're going to put it in this paneling right here. This kind of cutout you see in the steering wheel here, if you reach behind here, there's kind of a brace kind of right in that location, so you want to make sure you're above this portion right there. So anything below that, there's a brace. And then if we go up too high, there's also a brace. So we need to make sure we're staying in between these two sections here. We got our drill bit. We're gonna put it about right there. So that's where I'm intending to put it. Before I drill, I'm gonna make sure, put my hand on the other side, try to touch my finger, make sure that that is a good spot. And that does appear to be a good spot right there. So we'll move our finger out of the way and we'll drill that on out. It's kind of an angle here, so we're gonna go a little slow so the bit can't walk away from where we're trying to drill. Because it is gonna wanna walk because of this angle. And actually, if we can, see if we can't move the steering wheel out of the way a little. One of the things I noticed is that there's some rubber behind it. I couldn't quite feel that there was rubber there. That's gonna make it extra thick and difficult for our switch to be able to pass all the way through. So we're gonna remove that rubber that's behind that there. To do that, this is pretty difficult to get to in this location. So we've already got our hole where we know we need it. So at this point, we're just gonna remove this piece. It actually comes out fairly easily. This top shell here pops off. Just kind of pull upward on it. And that'll just pop right off of there. And then behind it, you're gonna have some 7 millimeter fasteners you'll need to remove. There's a total of 3 of them that run around the piece. So after we got all 3 fasteners removed from up top there, we can then pop this panel out. I like to start kind of at the bottom, popping it down there. And then we can kind of work that away. And then we'll move over to this side. Same thing, I'll kind of start here at the bottom, pulling out. Once you get it loose, you'll need your key now, because to get it all the way out of there, you're gonna have to turn it, not you have to start it, just turn it forward, press the brake, and then you can pull it down into gear. Keep your foot on the brake, slide it up, and you can put it back into park. And now we've got that out of there. So when we look on the back side, you can see there's all that rubber. So we just need to cut some of that rubber out. And while we got it out here, we can also get our LED little hole, pilot hole drilled a little bit easier. So we'll just take our razor knife and we're just kind of cutting around the hole. There we go, we can get some of that removed. And this will be a much flatter surface, and it's also not as thick, so that way we can get our switch mounted into that. Now you got that rubber out of the way, our switch, we can just insert it in the back side, and then you'll have a little sticker here that you'll stick on the front side. For demonstration purposes today, we're not gonna stick the sticker in place, but we're just gonna set it there. And then we'll take our nut, drop it down through the hole, and then just thread it right into our switch. And you might have to support the panel here a little bit when you're doing this. Now, if you've stuck the sticker down, you want the little tab here to be towards the top. Ours may not end up at the top just because we didn't stick it in place. So it may end up twisting on us. That's no big deal. Again, you should stick it on there with the tab at the top. That'll work out fine for us. After you've got it tightened down, if you wanted to tighten it further, you could use a 12mm socket by hand, but honestly, this is a plastic nut, so if it's snug by hand, I would stop there because it'll break fairly easily. We can put our knob on now, so I like to just kind of set it on there, turn it all the way counterclockwise till it stops without pushing it on yet. That'll set us up with 0 being our up and down number. So just slide it on. We can see 0's at the top there, twist it, now 10's at the top. And you also want to make sure that you can press the button there. If you can't press it, you may need to snug down the nut a little bit more. But everything looks good here, so we can get this reinstalled in the vehicle now. I'm gonna probably plug my cable in here and feed it down as I'm putting this panel back in. So once you get this unzip tied, you'll see that the harness here that plugs into our switch has 2 ends, one white and one black. The white end is the side that goes here on our switch. So we'll get that stretched out. I find it easier to just plug this in now. Goes like this. And then we'll just take our cable and we're just going to feed it through the opening so that way it'll drop down below. If you can, reach down below and grab it. There we go. All right, and then you will have to reinsert your key and pull it down into gear again in order to get this panel back in place. Go. Get that pushed into place. And then we can just reinstall our fasteners and put our panels back in place up here. And then after you get all your fasteners installed, your top piece, just line up the pegs. It should drop down just like that if they're all lined up. And then just kind of give it a little tap to snap those back in place. I went ahead and took the cable here and just used the cable tie and took the wiring and just attached it to this factory harness right here. Keep it out of the way. We'll then take the black end here and plug it into the other side of our module. Kind of lines up and plugs in there. There we go. So that's all plugged in, and now we can reinstall the panel here at the front. Making sure to line up all the little push pins here before pushing it in place. So we'll reinstall our fasteners down here. So now we've got everything back together. A quick test to verify that it's working. If we hit the button here, you should see it kind of breathe blue and then fade back out. That's an indication that it's powered up. It's searching for a trailer, but we currently don't have a trailer connected. So we'll go ahead and plug in we got a trailer simulator we'll be plugging in the back that simulates the load of trailer brakes, and we'll see how it responds from there. So we're plugging in our 7-way connector. This is for a test box that we have that'll simulate a trailer. That's what it looks like right here. It'll actually draw a load on the system just like your trailer brakes will. So we'll hop back in the vehicle now. So now you can see here with our trailer plugged in, it's illuminated blue the entire time, letting us know a trailer's connected. I'm turning the slider up to 10 just because if you have it on 0, you won't get any output when you press the button. And when I hit the button here, it'll illuminate red if it's sending an output and it's being loaded by the brakes. So we can see there that it is red. I can hear the simulator at the back making a hum, indicating it's pulling some amperage. And as you turn it down, you'll see it'll transition from red to blue, with blue being no output, red being maximum output. And if you do have a trailer tester like we're using here, you should see the amperage go up when you press the manual slide. And as I turn the manual slide down, that amperage draw should be less. So we're now in the vehicle. We've got our tester still plugged in that's simulating a trailer, and you can see on our button that it is flashing between green and blue, with mostly green and then a little bit of blue. The green on time is real heavy. That means that it's not programmed yet. To program it, you simply need to drive in a straight line and then press the brakes. And it can take up to 20 presses for this to program itself so it knows its position. So we're just going to do that now. And as you're doing this, it'll transition from being less green and more blue the closer you get to it being programmed, with all blue being finally programmed. Now, if you don't have a trailer plugged in or a simulator like we do there, you're not going to get any of that flashing light feedback, but it still will program. You just won't know that it's completed until you plug a trailer into it. So if you do drive this without a trailer plugged in, and when you do go to plug your trailer in, if it's solid blue, when you do, you know that it's fully programmed and ready to go. So we've had about 3 stops there. We'll just stop here for 1 minute, take a look and see. Oh, and it's already solid blue. It is already completed its programming. So it really just depends on how well you're able to get up to speed and hit the brakes in a nice straight line. If you've got turns and stuff in there, that can kind of throw it off and make it take a little bit longer to calibrate itself. But we're all good to go at this point. So I'm just gonna roll this up. We'll just put it on 10, and when I hit the brakes there, we can see it's lighting up red and it's sending an output to our tester back there to apply the brakes. So everything seems to be working fine. Manual slides working, we're programmed. And that completes our installation of Redarc's Tow-Pro Elite trailer brake controller on our 2015 Chevrolet Silverado 1500.